So we are going through the Gampopa's classical Buddhist text called Jewel Ornament of Liberation, and the book is presented in 6 points. First, the basic kind of a cause, a basic reason why we can be optimistic, meaning that we can find lasting peace and happiness, we can liberate, we can transform. That is the Buddha nature. Secondly, the right kind of base, right life form through which we can transform and cultivate this Buddha nature, that is precious human life. Thirdly, the right conditions. If there is no right conditions, then things might not happen. So right condition is the proper, genuine spiritual friend. So these 3 we have gone through, and now we have come to the 4th one, the actual methods, the actual teachings, actual path through which that we receive from the spiritual friend, and that we need to work on. So Dharma. So this is kind of the main body of the text.
To, kar študiramo zdaj, je Gampopin klasični budistični tekst Okrasov osvoboditve. Ta knjiga je predstavljena v 6 točkah in prva točka je glavni razlog, glavni vzrok, zakaj smo lahko optimistični, zakaj govori o tem, da lahko najdemo trajen mir, trajno srečo, da se lahko osvobodimo in da lahko spremenimo preobrazimo svoje življenje. Druga točka govori o osnovi, na kateri se lahko to zgodi, o ustrezni ali pa primerni življenjski obliki, s katero lahko dosežemo ta cilj. V dragocenem človeškem življenju imamo to možnost, da transformiramo nevednost in kultiviramo Budovo naravo. Se pravi, to je druga točka, dragoceno človeško življenje, in tretja točka so pravilni ustrezni pogoji za to, da se to lahko zgodi, kajti če ni ustreznih pogojev, potem se to ne more zgoditi. In zato, da bi se to lahko zgodilo, potrebujemo avtentičnega učitelja, duhovnega prijatelja, ki nam pokaže pot. In 4. točka, te 3 točke smo že predelali, in zdaj 4. točka, dejanske metode, učenje, pot, s katero lahko dosežemo cilj. In to pot nam pokaže duhovni prijatelj, naš učitelj, in potem je to tisto, na čemer moramo delati, to je Budova pot ali Dharma. In to je glavni del teksta.
So it says that we have Buddha nature, we have precious human life. We also can find the genuine teachers, and still we are not free from suffering. Why? What are the reasons? So here, the 4 reasons given. Because of our misunderstanding or not seeing things clearly, what is really bringing us the sufferings, what is really bringing us the lasting peace. So we are too much attached to the luxuries of the life. We are too much attached to the samsara, samsaric states of mind. We are too much attached to peace and happiness, and because we don't know exactly how to work for the Buddhahood, we can say, we cannot know how the right way to bring this end to the suffering and lasting happiness. Because of these reasons, then these 4 reasons, then we are still not able to transform ourselves. So then what we need to do, we need to understand and work on these 4 things. First, we need to understand impermanence and meditate on impermanence very clearly. Second, we need to understand what is samsara, samsaric state of mind, and what is its problems very clearly, and thereby also understand the results and causes of actions, what we call karma. And then we need to know we need to practice, meditate loving kindness and compassion, and learn how to generate bodhicitta. And if we do these 4 things, then that kind of includes all the necessary instructions, necessary advices, necessary methods to work on the kind of path that will bring us out of the samsaric state of mind and bring us lasting peace and happiness. So basically, this kind of main 4 or 5 instructions is important, and these are the quintessence of all the teachings that Buddha had given. Of course, Buddha has given lots of different teachings and many different kind of instructions. As we know, the Buddha's own, of course, there are also other teachings other than Buddha's teachings, but even the Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings, there are hundreds of volumes, only in Tibetan language. But if we kind of essentialize those teachings, that one person needs to practice in order to become, in order to kind of have all the necessary understandings of experiences of practices. It is included in a very simple way in these few instructions.
Zdaj, tudi če že vemo, imamo Budovo naravo, ki je osnova, potem imamo dragoceno človeško življenje, potem najdemo avtentičnega učitelja, duhovnega prijatelja. To še zmeraj ni dovolj, da bi se osvobodili trpljenja. In zakaj je tako? Zaradi 4 razlogov, zaradi 4 stvari, ki jih ne razumemo ali ne vidimo jasno. Ne vidimo jasno, kaj je tisto, kar prinaša trpljenje, oziroma ne vidimo jasno, kako doseči trajen mir in srečo. In to je zaradi tega, ker smo preveč navezani na udobnosti in ugodja, ki jih doživljamo v tem življenju. Preveč smo navezani na samsaro in na samsarično stanje uma. In preveč smo tudi navezani na minljivo srečo in mir, ki ga začasno izkušamo v tem življenju. In zaradi teh razlogov potem ne vemo, kako delovati v smeri tega, da bi dosegli budovstvo oziroma razsvetljenje. Ne vemo, kako končati trpljenje in ne vemo, kako doseči trajen mir in srečo. Nismo sposobni spremeniti svojega življenja. In to lahko storimo tako, da s tem, da dosežemo razumevanje. In razumevanje lahko dosežemo tako, da delamo na teh 4 stvarih, na 4 točkah. In te 4 točke so najprej, da res globoko razumemo nestalnost. In meditiramo o tem in jasno vidimo, jasno prepoznamo nestalnost. Potem druga točka je, da jasno razumemo, kaj je samsara in zakaj je samsara problematična, kaj je težava samsara. Tretja točka je, da razumemo način, kako sta povezana vzroki in posledice naših dejanj. To, kar z drugo besedo imenujemo tudi karma. In četrta točka je to, da vadimo nesebično ljubezen, sočutje in da vzgojimo tisto, kar se imenuje bodičita, oziroma ki teži k razsvetljenju za dobrobit vseh čutečih bitij. In v teh 4 točkah so vključena vsa navodila, vsi nasveti, to je celovita metoda za pot, ki jo moramo prehoditi da bi se osvobodili samsare in dosegli trajno srečo in mir. In ta 4 navodila, te 4 točke so zelo pomembne. So srčika vseh Budovih učenj. Buda je dal veliko različnih učenj in obstaja tudi druga učenja, druge duhovne poti razen Budove. Že sam Buda je učil najrazličnejše metode, najrazličnejše poti in Rinpoče pravi, že v samem tibetanskem jeziku obstaja na stotine in stotine knjig, kjer so zapisane Budova učenja. Ampak če bi strnili učenje, to, kar je Buda učil v eno stvar oziroma v 4 stvari, kaj je potrebno vaditi, da bi dosegli potem razumevanje, da bi imeli vse potrebne izkušnje, vse to je vključeno v teh nekaj točkah.
So the impermanent is something that we can actually see and feel and understand. Actually, we all know that things are impermanent. Nobody can be totally kind of ignorant about this, because we can see things change. But we don't want to accept that the things are impermanent. And because we don't accept, we kind of we get into lots of sufferings, because when impermanence shows its own color, then we get shocked, and this is a source of lots of pain. So therefore, whether we like it or not, we need to see it, we need to understand it, we need to accept it. The more we can understand it and accept it, the more we understand or we accept the reality. And this is very, very important. Sometimes, and also I think it is important to understand that impermanence is not always saying that something bad will happen all the time. But things will never be same. Things always change. And there is nothing you can do that it doesn't change. We have no other alternative but to accept the changes. The changes will happen. Maybe it can change for better, maybe it can change for worse, but things will change. And even myself, ourselves, is not immune from change. We are born, we grow old, and we die. Sometimes we have a very strange way of seeing. We want to live very long, but we don't want to grow old. So sometimes we try a little bit silly kind of ways. We try to stretch our skills. I've even seen, they inject something into your, forehead, so that the forehead freezes, and then the wrinkles do not show, and then you think I am not old. I don't think it helps very much, because they say that they can't even feel it. So there is no use because of that. So we need to really know, we need to accept that everything changes, and even our life is uncertain. We don't know, when we will die. We don't know when anybody will die. Sometimes it's not necessary that somebody who is terminally ill is going to die sooner than somebody who is completely healthy. There is a saying that during the life of a terminally ill person, hundreds of completely healthy people die. That's also true. So therefore, it is very important to kind of learn to be prepared, even to die at any moment. And sometimes that becomes a very important preparation for life. I think we talked about this, I think maybe yesterday also, that, sometimes they say that you live today as if there is no tomorrow. It doesn't mean that you have to do everything crazy things, but you make today, you live today the best way you should live. And sometimes, what we do is because of tomorrow or because of the future, something might happen or might not happen. And because of those worries and because of those concerns, we make today very miserable for others and ourselves also. But that's not the way. So therefore, to understand impermanence very deeply is something which is very, very important, because maybe initially, if you think about impermanence, you get a little bit sad because you know that things change and things cannot be the same way. But then the more you understand deeply and the more you accept it, then you have a very deeper understanding of the nature of life. And that can actually free you from lots of troubles and lots of problems. Will show us a different aspect of the reality. So therefore, impermanence is not something kind of negative or remorse or something bad. We need to understand the impermanence deeply.
Prva točka je nestalnost, netrajnost. In to je nekaj, kar lahko vsi čutimo, razumemo, vidimo. Vsi vemo, da stvari niso trajne, da stvari niso stalne. To je neko dejstvo, ki ga prav nihče ne more popolnoma ignorirati, ker vidimo, da se stvari spreminjajo. Vendar, kljub temu, da to vidimo, prepoznamo in vemo, pa tega ne sprejmemo. In ker tega ne sprejmemo, nam to povzroča dosti trpljenja in veliko težav. Kadar nestalnost pokaže svoj pravi obraz, smo šokirani in takrat ponovadi doživljamo veliko bolečine. Kajti stvari se hočeš nočeš, če nam je to všeč ali ne, spreminjajo. In to, kar lahko storimo, je to, da to vidimo, prepoznamo, razumemo in sprejmemo. In če zmeraj bolj, ko sprejemamo dejstvo, da stvari niso trajne, da se kar naprej spreminjajo, bolj v resnici s tem sprejemamo resničnost, tako kot je. In to je zelo pomembno. Seveda, nestalnost ni potrebno, da zmeraj pomeni nekaj slabega. Gre za to, da se stvari zmeraj spreminjajo, včasih se tudi iz slabega na dobro. Gre za to, da v končni fazi sprejmemo, da ne glede na to, ali se stvari obrnejo na dobro ali na slabo, da se in se bodo vedno spreminjali. In tudi v nas samih lahko vidimo to neprestano spreminjanje. Vsak pri sebi lahko vidi. Rodili smo se, potem gremo skozi proces staranja in na koncu bomo umrli. Včasih imamo ljudje hecne predstave, pa hecne poglede na to, kar se dogaja. In recimo po eni strani bi si želeli živeti dolgo, po drugi strani pa se ne bi radi postarali, kar je v bistvu nesmiselno pričakovanje. In potem si ljudje izmišljajo najrazličnejše načine, kako bi ohranili mladosten videz. Recimo, če da primer, ko si ljudje dajo brizgati botox v obraz in pravi, da se je resne, da gubice zgina, ker ti obraz čisto zamrzne in pol ni nekih hudih problemov, ker niti ne čutiš več svojega obraza. In potem ima človek vtis, ja, zdaj pa ne zgledam star, zdaj pa nisem star. Ne? Ampak Rinpoče pravi, da je to en nesmisel. Prepoznati moramo spremembo in jo sprejeti. Prepoznati moramo dejstvo in sprejeti dejstvo, da je življenje negotovo. Da v resnici ne vemo, kdaj bomo umrli. In da lahko kdorkoli, kadarkoli umre. Pravi celo, kadar je nekdo na smrt bolan, se lahko zgodi, da bo nekdo, ki je popolnoma zdrav, umrl pred njim. In potem nek izrek je, da za časa umiranja nekoga, ki je neozdravljivo bolan, bo vmes umrlo še stotine popolnoma zdravih ljudi v tistem času. Zato je zelo pomembno, da se naučimo biti pripravljeni in biti pripravljeni celo umreti kadarkoli, v kateremkoli trenutku. In to je zelo pomembno, ker to je v resnici je to pripravljeno življenje. Včeraj smo se pogovarjali o tem, da je treba, ali pa, da lahko živimo življenje, kot da jutri ne obstaja, kot da ni nikakršnega jutri, kamor bi lahko preložili stvari. In to ne pomeni, da se začnemo obnašati nerazumno in počnemo nore stvari. Ampak samo to, da najbolje živimo zdaj na tem trenutku, na najboljši možen način. Kajti velikokrat se zgodi, da zaradi tega, ker predpostavljamo, da obstaja neka prihodnost, mnogi skrbi o tem, kaj se bo ali pa ne bo zgodilo, nemogoče, da bi živeli tako, kot je treba v tem trenutku in s tem si grenimo življenje sebi in drugim. In to je nekaj, kar je popolnoma odvečno in ni dober način, kako živeti svoje življenje. Zelo pomembno je, da res globoko razumemo to dejstvo nestalnosti, netrajnosti. In lahko se zgodi, da na začetku zaradi tega izkusimo nek občutek žalosti, ker ugotovimo, da stvari nikoli ne morejo ostati take, kot so. Ampak bolj in bolj, ko razumemo, bolj in bolj, ko sprejmemo dejstvo nestalnosti, bolj se s tem poglablja naše razumevanje narave življenja. In to razumevanje nas lahko potem osvobodi mnogih težav in problemov. Ker nam pokaže popolnoma drug pogled na resničnost, ki ni, in tukaj moramo vedeti, da tukaj ne gre za neko negativno, pesimistično razglabljanje o tem, da obžalujemo, ker se vse spreminja in da so stvari slabe, ali pa da je to neko grozno dejstvo. Gre samo za to, da zelo globoko razumemo, da stvari pač take so.
Actually, to understand emptiness also, I think the best way is to go through the understanding of impermanence. I usually think that I try to understand emptiness by going through impermanence, interdependence, and then emptiness. Impermanence is something we can see. Things change. Things change, but when do the things change? When does, we all know that things change, everything changes. But when does the things change? Once a year, at our birthday, or once a month, or once a day, or once a, when does it change? We can't say it changes at this time, because it changes all the time. The change is not that, every second the clock is ticking, the things are changing. But not only at 1 second things. There's nothing like So if you look deeply, maybe there is no time that things are not changing. We cannot say that now things are not changing. There is no time that things are not changing. So when we know that there is no time that things are not changing, then when are the things staying or existing on its own? Because when it's changing, it cannot exist on its own, because it's changing. When it's not changing, when is that? So there is no time that things are not changing, so therefore there is no time things are existing on its own. So when there is no time that things are existing on its own, then what's the nature of the things? Emptiness. That's emptiness. Actually, there was a professor of mathematics in Oxford who told me that he can prove through mathematics the nature of emptiness. And he tried many times, but I didn't understand. I'm very bad in mathematics, as you know. And this happens with me many times. I get to go to many science and science and Buddhist conferences and things like that. But most of the things goes beyond my. I even twice actually went as a faculty member to this Science and Buddhist conference called Mind and Life Institute. And it was a little bit embarrassing because I had to react to this, many scientists kind of presenting their papers, but I didn't understand what they said. They have a long paper, but there is no time. So they have to present it in 10 minutes or 5 minutes sometimes. And then they use this, what do you call this? The computer, PowerPoint. And that's worse even, because you don't know whether to look or whether to listen. And then they say so fast, they have to finish it. And then after 5 minutes, you go back to just. So anyway, this professor was saying something like, you want to know? I'll just make an attempt, maybe I can't. He said that between 2 points, like 1 inch, 2 points, there is mathematically, you can have, innumerable, you can have as many dots as possible. And in between, the shortest distance possible, also you can have innumerable dots. Innumerable dots. And between, so there is no limit. There is no shortest limit. That between the shortest, like 0.000 and 0.00001, there is, so there is no kind of limitation that you cannot divide. You cannot divide limitlessly. So therefore, you cannot find a kind of mathematically, there is nothing that is you cannot divide, and therefore there is no limit that there is existing on its own one thing. So there is no one. In other words, there is no one. You cannot find an absolute one. And because you cannot find an absolute one, you cannot find absolute many. So therefore, when there is no one and no many, you cannot make anything. There is nothing which is not, which is totally existing. Understood or not? Doesn't matter.
Rinpoche pravi, da je dober način, kako razumeti praznino, dobra metoda je lahko tudi skozi razumevanje nestalnosti pridemo do razumevanja praznine. Rinpoche pravi, da tudi sam veliko krat uporabi to metodo, da najprej razmišlja o nestalnosti, potem o soodvisnosti vseh pojavov in potem preko tega pride do praznine. Zdaj, nestalnost je nekaj, kar vidimo, kar je očitno, stvari se spreminjajo, ampak potem se lahko vprašamo, kdaj je tisti trenutek, ko se stvari spremenijo. A se spremenijo enkrat na leto, takrat, ko imamo rojstni dan, se spremenijo enkrat na mesec, se spremenijo enkrat na dan. In v resnici, če dobro razmislimo o tem, ne moremo reči, kdaj, ker stvari se spreminjajo ves čas. Tudi če bi razmišljali o tem, da se vsakeč, ko se sekundni kazalec na uri premakne, stvari spremenijo, tudi to ni res. Kajti, če smo popolnoma natančni in če res dobro opazujemo, vidimo, da ni časa, v katerem se stvari ne bi neprestano spreminjali. In zdaj, če ugotovimo, da ni niti enega samega trenutka, ko se stvari ne bi ves čas spreminjali, potem se lahko vprašamo, kdaj pa obstajajo stvari, ki se spreminjajo. Ali lahko določimo tisti trenutek, ko stvari obstajajo. In če se stvari neprestano spreminjajo, potem ni časa, kjer bi stvari obstajale kot same na sebi. Kajti, če se spreminjajo, takrat ne morejo obstajati same na sebi. In ko to vidimo, da je to narava vseh stvari, ker se neprestano spreminjajo, nikoli zares ne obstajajo kot take. In to je že razumevanje praznine. En profesor iz Oxforda, s katerim se je pogovarjal, pravi Rinpoche, da je rekel, da bo matematično dokazal praznino in velikrat je to tudi poskušal oziroma izpeljeval in to razlagal Rinpocheju, ampak Rinpoche pravi, da ga ni čist povsem razumel, ker pravi, da je slab v matematiki, nasploh ima težave z razumevanjem tega znanstvenih elaboratov. In pravi, da enkrat je bil na eni konferenci, večkrat je sodeloval na znanstvenih konferencah oziroma na konferencah, kjer se srečujejo budistični učenjaki in znanstveniki in razpravljajo o naravi resničnosti. In nekoč je prisostoval kot član, kot sodelujoči razpravljalec na konferenci tako imenovanega inštituta zavesti in življenja. In potem so mnogi znanstveniki tam predstavljali svoje ekspozeje in on je moral nekako se odzvati na to, ker je bil tudi eden od razpravljavcev in pravi, da je zelo težko mu bilo razumeti, ker so imeli res take dolge elaborate, potem so jih morali pa še strniti v 10 ali pa 5 minutne razprave in potem so uporabljali zraven še PowerPoint, tako da ni vedel, kaj ali jih posluša ali ne gleda. In govorili so zelo hitro in pravi, da imel zmeri potem težave z razumevanjem, kaj so pravzaprav povedali. V glavnem. To je ilustracija tega, da pač Rinpoche včasih te znanstvene zadeve pač tako bolj na grobo razume. No in ta profesor iz Oxforda, profesor matematike, je razložil nekako tako, da če imamo dve točki, ki sta na neki oddaljenosti postavljeni eno od druge, lahko na črto med njima postavimo neskončno točki. In ne glede na to, ko zelo skrašamo razdaljo med tema dvema točkama, jo lahko smeri razdelimo na pol, se pravi, ne obstaja najkrajša razdalja med dvema točkama, ker se jo da zmeri še naprej razdeliti. Se pravi, ne obstaja meja. Brezmejno lahko delimo to razdaljo med dvema točkama. In če pravi, da je pač to matematični dokaz, da ne obstaja absolutno eno, ker ga lahko zmeri razdelimo. In če ne obstaja absolutno eno, potem ne obstaja niti absolutno mnogotero. In potem, ko zgubimo ta dva pojma, ko vidimo, da ne stojita, potem tudi ne moramo več reči, da nekaj obstaja kot tako samo na sebi.
So, if you look at ourselves, if you look at myself, what am I? Am I one thing? I'm not one thing. I am so many things. And everything is changing. They say that, scientifically, they say that my cells are always changing. Changing so much that after a few years, there's nothing left in me. Every 7 years, they say that my body is completely new. There's no cells of that was there 7 years before is left in me now. So I have changed so many times. I don't know how many times. So therefore, but we think it's the same one, because our way of looking, there's a continuum. So in this way, when we look at things, everything is changing. Everything is because of many causes and conditions, and then all these conditions and causes are changing. So therefore you see that it is interdependent, dependently arising. Everything is dependently arising, or relatively arising. Everything is there dependently or relatively. Dependently meaning that there are many kind of causes and conditions, and so many. One thing, you look at one thing, is it one thing? It's not one thing, it's many things. So when all these many things kind of come together, then there is this. Like they said that water, I know a professor who was researching on water, and he was saying that, when you try to research water, there's, the last thing you can get to is these two, oxygen and hydrogen. So if you separate this hydrogen and oxygen, water disappears. There is no water. Water is not there. Finished. And when these two things put together, there appears water, like magic. So therefore, it's like that. Everything is like that. When it's not this, it's not that, but when things come together, then it happens. And each of them also is like that. Water particle doesn't exist on its own. So in the same way, oxygen also doesn't exist on its own, like that. So everything is interdependent or dependent arising. So therefore the whole world, whole universe is dependent system. And also relatively. Relatively is, I think one of the examples that I could understand is, like for instance, how much does this weigh? Now this weighs like 250 grams. Does it weigh 250 grams? Maybe you put it in the space and it doesn't weigh 250 grams. So, where is 250 grams? So 250 grams is dependent and relative to where it is, in what situations and things like that. There is nothing called its own weight. So in the same way, the scientists always talk about how fast we go. how fast I go. How fast I go, I cannot go any fast. Actually, how fast I go cannot be measured on me, because if you measure on myself, I never move. Because I'm there all the time. So I cannot go fast or slow, because however fast I move, I am there. So I never move. How fast I go is only dependent or relative to something else. I said that I go from here, and then relative to him, I go this fast. So therefore, it's all relative. So that way, everything is relative or dependently. So everything is like that. So when you understand this, that's the nature of everything is this way. So that's why it's called emptiness, because there is nothing existing on its own. Everything is either dependently or relatively existing. So when we look at our own life from this experience, it's the same way. It's changing. If I say I am, but I am not one thing, I am maybe even not one life. There's so many lives in me. I have so many, neurons, and so many bacteria, and so many things. I once had a very strange blood examination. I don't know, this kind of, I had never had other places. There was a doctor who took my blood and then put a little bit on the glass and then put it on the TV, on color TV. And then I could see it was a very little tiny part of my blood. I could see like a cosmos, space, when you're kind of space. So many things there, and big things, small things, round things, and then they're moving, like this, and eating each other. It was really like, and that was just, the tiniest bit of my blood cell. So I am like a universe. So therefore, it's just like the way, if you really look deeply, it's a little bit like that. There is nothing, there's nothing one thing, there's nothing existing on its own. So that's why I think, Milarepa used to say that I was afraid of death, and then I ran away into the mountains. I was afraid of death so much so that I ran away into the mountains. And in the mountains, what I did do? I meditated on the uncertainty of death. I meditated on the uncertainty of death so much so that I found deathlessness. Now, even the death comes, I have no fear. That's what Milarepa said. What does that mean? It means that, of course we are all afraid of death, and we want to find deathlessness. We want to find like an elixir of life, or something like that. But if you don't die at all, I don't know how nice it is. Because I've seen a movie, this what is called? Yeah, the Christians have this thing, they say. Shells. So they're searching for the shells, the group is going, and then find. At the last, there is a kind of finds in the cave, lots of. So you have to, if you can select the right one, you become immortal. If you can't select the right one, you dissolve, you die there. But there is a God. He's there for forever. And it looks not so nice. A kind of night is there. He is to guard this day and night for thousands of years. And I was feeling that if I was like that, better to die. Because it's what's nice. That's you have no more friends. All your friends long time gone. And you're there. So anyway, that's not the idea. The understanding is that when you look at the kind of uncertainty of death, there is no, I might die any time. But what is it that dies? What is it that dies? So when you look at what is it that dies, everything changes momentarily. Dying is actually changing. Death is a change. But that change is happening all the time. Not only, year after year and day after day, but every moment. So therefore, every moment is a change. And every moment there's like new and things happening. So when you look at that, what is it that dies? There's no one thing that dies. Everything in me is always changing, always, like new. Like if you look at a river, this is usually the example, traditional example given. You say that this river has been there for thousands of years. But actually, what is river? River is the water that's flowing. So water that's flowing, the moment before, water is not there now. It's totally different water. So that's why sometimes you say that you cannot cross a river more than once. You cannot cross the same river again because it's totally different. So the same way, there is nothing there in me which remains. So what is there to die? There's nothing to die. So when I really find that there is nothing in me which kind of which dies, it's all, everything is changing anytime, anyway, all the time. So when I really understand this, what is there to be afraid of death? Because there's nothing, nobody, not one thing that's dying. It's always changing anyway. So therefore, that's why, Milarepa said, and that's the kind of the secret of liberation. That when you look at the nature of yourself, how uncertain the death is, how much the impermanent it is, how much the change takes place, then you know that it changes so much that actually there's nothing that that's existing on its own which can change. So therefore there's nothing in a way called death. There's nothing in a way change. So therefore when you have that deep understanding, then there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to cling to. There's no one, nothing there who is kind of clinging, who can be clinging. It's all an illusion. It's all a delusion that we are afraid of death. We don't want to die. We don't want to be reborn. We don't want to kind of let things go. All these things is just an illusion, it's a delusion, it's a wrong way of reaction, a wrong perception, So when we understand this deeply, then there's nothing to worry about anything, there's nothing to be anxious about, and there's nothing to fear. So that's why this understanding impermanence deeply is extremely important. And that's why Buddha said again and again that of all the meditations, the most important is the meditation on impermanence. He gave a strange example, I don't know why. He said that of all the footsteps, the most prominent is that of the elephants. And in the same way, he said, of all the meditations, the most important is impermanence.
In potem, zdaj, ko govorimo o nestalnosti in o tem, ali stvari obstajajo, oziroma kako obstajajo, lahko pogledam tudi samega sebe in se vprašam, kaj sem jaz. Ali sem jaz ena stvar? In odgovor je, da ne, da sem mnoge različne stvari, sestavljeni iz najrazličnejših delov, ki se neprestano spreminjajo. Recimo celice v našem organizmu se neprestano spreminjajo in pravi Rinpoče znanstveniki so ugotovili, da se vsakih 7 let se vse celice v našem telesu zamenjajo. Potem niti ena stvar ni ostala taka, kot je bila pred 7 leti, naše telo je popolnoma drugo. In pravi Rinpoče, da pač v vseh teh letih, ko živi, da se je zamenjal že veliko prej. Ampak navajeni smo gledati na to kot na nek kontinuum. Navajeni smo gledati, kot da je telo zmeraj isto telo. V resnici se pa neprestano spreminja. In poleg tega, da se vse neprestano spreminja, zaradi tega je odvisno od mnogih vzrokov in pogojev, da se lahko sploh pojavi. In vsi ti vzroki in pogoji, ki omogočajo nastanek določene stvari, se ravno tako ves čas spreminjajo. Spravi, da vse stvari obstajajo ali pa se pojavljajo samo v odvisnosti ena od druge. In od njih lahko govorimo kot obstoječi smo na relativen način. Zdaj, kako sploh ena stvar nastane? Če ne moramo govoriti o eni stvari, ker je zmeraj potrebno veliko stvari, ki pridejo skupaj, da bi lahko potem neka stvar nastala. Recimo, nek znanstvenik je raziskoval vodo in je opisoval, koliko različnih oblik ima ta voda. Na koncu je prišel do, pridemo do tega, da so to molekule vodika in kisika, ki so skupaj. In ta znanstvenik je rekel, če daš narazen ti dve molekuli, potem voda izgine. Nobene vode ni, brez da skupaj tvori ta vodo vodik in kisik. In če jih damo narazen, ni več vode. Če pridejo skupaj atomi vodika in kisika, se kot čudežno pojavi voda. Se pravi, voda dolguje svoj obstanek dvema stvarima, ki sta pogojevala in nastanek. In če potem pogledamo tudi atome kisika in vodika, vidimo, da tudi oni ne obstajajo sami na sebi, ampak so odvisni od drugih delcev, ki jih sestavljajo, drugih sestavnih delov. In če dobro pogledamo, vse vesolje obstaja samo na tak način, se pravi, vsi fenomeni vzniknejo zgolj, ko so za to vzroki in ko so ustrezni pogoji in so sestavljeni fenomeni, sestavljeni iz mnogih stvari. To je ena stvar. Potem druga stvar, da vse stvari obstajajo lahko, ali pa lahko govorimo o njih samo v delaciji do drugih stvari. Potem je dal če da primer lončka za čaj, šalica za čaj. Pravi, koliko potehtal je kozarc in je rekel, koliko tehta. Da je recimo ocenil, da je recimo 250 gramov. Ne? In zdaj, a je res teža tega kozarca 250 gramov, teh 250 gramov nekako obstaja. Potem je rekel, ne, če daš kozarcu vesolje, potem je brez teže in teh 250 gramov ni več tam. Se pravi, odvisno je od tega, kje merimo, koliko tehta ta kozarc, kakšno njegovo teže. Sam na sebi nima nikakršne teže, sam od sebe. Ali pa drug primer, ki ga je dal Rinpoče, kako hitro se premita. Pravi, tega ni moč zmeriti na njem, samo na njem, ker on v resnici nima nikakršne hitrosti, ne gre ne hitro, ne počasi, ker če gledamo pri njem samem, je zmer na miru. Sprav lahko govorimo o tem, kako hitro se Rinpoče premika samo v relaciji do nečesa drugega, recimo, če bi šel proti meni, potem bi lahko zmerili, kako hitro je šel proti meni. In na ta način so vse stvari povezane, se pravi, vseh stvarih lahko govorimo samo kot o stvarih v relacijah do drugih stvari in vse stvari dolgujejo svoj obstoj svojim sestavnim delom, se pravi drugim sestavnim delom. Vsaka stvar, ki sestavlja neko stvar, je tudi odvisna od tega, da je sestavljena iz nadaljnih sestavnih delov. In če globoko razumemo, razumemo resnično naravo vseh fenomenov in da obstaja samo na tak način, potem uvidimo, kaj je praznina, potem lahko razumemo praznino. Spravi, da vse stvari so odvisne in obstaja samo v relativnem smislu odnosu. Okay, it's the wrong page. I went into the past.
Okay.
Okay. Zdaj prav lepo, če pogledamo recimo naše telo ali pa svoje življenje, kaj sem zdaj jaz, a sem ena stvar. Prav Rinpoče, nisem ena stvar, to, kar smo prej rekli, da sem sestavljen iz mnogih različnih stvari. Prav, enkrat je bil pri enem zdravniku, ki je mu pokazal en hecen test kri njegove poglede, mu vzel nekaj krvi z prsta in razmazal to po stekelcu, dal pod mikroskop, zelo močen mikroskop in vse skrat projeciral, vse skrat je bilo na monitorju. In prav Rinpoče, da je videl v barvah to v bistvu mehen del njegove krvi. In v samem tem mehnem delcu ali v njegovi celici je bilo ogromen enih stvari, mehnih, velikih, okroglih, takšnih in drugačnih oblik. In te stvari so se jedle med sabo tudi. In prav, da je bil fascinanten pogled na to, ker je skledal kot eno vesolje tam, pravzaprav pogled na to, na ta delec krvi. In to je bilo samo v enem mehnem drobnem delcu vsega tega, kar nas sestavlja. Se pravi, če tako pogledamo, vidimo v resnici, da lahko tudi sebe gledamo kot eno celo vesolje, ne pa kot eno stvar. Se pravi, nismo na ena stvar in nismo nekaj takega, kar bi lahko obstajalo samo na sebi, ker nas sestavlja tako mnogo različnih stvari. In veliki tibetanski jogi, Milarepa, je rekel, tako sem se bal smrti, da sem pobegnil gore v votlino. In potem sem dolgo časa meditiral na negotovost trenutka smrti. In ko sem zelo globoko meditiral o tem, sem našel nesmrtnost. In zdaj tudi, če smrt pride, se ne bojim. Zdaj, kaj to pomeni? Vsi se bojimo smrti in vsak od nas ima vse želje, da bi nekako podaljšal svoje življenje ali pa našel eliksir nesmrtnosti, eliksir življenja. Ampak zdaj, če pa res pomislimo o tej ideji, da sploh ne bi umrl, a bi bilo to zabavno, mislim, da bi bilo to lepo, ker prav Rinpoche pa gleda en film, ko so ljudje iskali ta sveti gral, oziroma nek napitek nesmrtnosti, ki je bil v tem kelihu, in so ga našli v neki jami, in potem seveda si mogel ti izbrati, ker je bilo več kelihov, če si našel ta pravga, si dosegel to pač, kar si želel, če si pa napačen, ga je bil pa tam en stražar, ki te v kipu se sekljal, in prav ta stražar ni izgledal prav dobro, ne? To je bil neki vitez, ki bil tam že na 1000 let in ni imel drugega dela, kad je stražil tist kelih. In da bi že vas tak čuden. In prav Rinpoche, a je res to tako fajn, ne? Ki je videl to podobo, ne? Tiste nesmrtnega stražarja, ki že tako dolgo živi. Tako dolgo bi živeli, vsi prijatelji bi seveda že pomrli, z njimi bi vsi čudni posušeni, a je to res tisto, česar si želimo. In se pravi, kaj pravzaprav pomeni to negotovost, ali pa negotovost trenutka smrti? Pomeni, da lahko umremo kadarkoli. Dejstvo je, da lahko kadarkoli umremo. V vsakem trenutku lahko pride naša smrt. Ampak potem se lahko vprašamo, kaj pa je tisto, kar umre? Kaj umre? Če se vse spreminja ves čas, če se tudi mi spreminjamo ves čas. In smrt je v resnici samo neka oblika spremembe. Ampak ta sprememba se tako ali tako dogaja vsak trenutek. Vsak trenutek se pojavljajo nove stvari. In če ta stvar ni ena, se pravi, če mi nismo eno, ni ena stvar, ki umre, kaj je pravzaprav tisto, česar se bojimo. V tem je tradicionalni primer, je, da dajo primer reke, ki rečemo, da tam je že 1000 let, recimo, ne? Ampak kaj je ta reka? To je voda, ki pride in gre, in to so zmeri nove molekule vode. In ta tok je sicer isti, ampak voda se pa ves čas spreminja, zato tudi tukaj poznamo izrek, da ne moš v isto reko ne moš stopiti dvakrat. Se pravi, pravzaprav nič ne ostane isto, niti za trenutek. In to pomeni, da tudi nič ne more umreti. In ko res vidimo to, ko res globoko vidimo, da se vse spreminja vaš čas, potem izgubimo strah pred smrtjo, tako kot ga je izgubil Milarepa. In to je skrivnost, ta skrivnost osvoboditve od strahu pred smrtjo. Se pravi, da pogledamo, kaj je resnična narava tega, kar doživljamo kot sebe, in vidimo, da je nestalno, da se spreminja, da ne obstaja nič, ali pa da nismo nič, kar bi obstajalo samo na sebi. In koncev ni nič, kar se spreminja, in nič, kar umre. Nič ni, na kar bi se pravzaprav sploh lahko navezali. Ta naša navezanost, ta naš strah je samo posledica iluzije, napačne percepcije. Ker se bojimo spustiti, ker imamo napačno percepcijo, ker mislimo, da smo eno, da smo nekaj, kar lahko umre, zaradi tega se oklepamo, ampak to je samo napačen pogled. In ko to razumemo res globoko, potem nimamo več nimamo ničesar, zaradi česar bi skrbeli, ni več strahu, ni več napetosti. Zato je globoko razumevanje nestalnosti izjemno pomembno. In sam Buda je rekel, da od vseh meditacij je meditacija o nestalnosti najbolj pomembna, in potem je dal še en hecen primer, je rekel, tako kot so najbolj mogočne stopinje slona, tako je tudi najbolj mogočna meditacija o nestalnosti.
So I think I stop here. Any questions?
Vprašanje.
Ali je tudi zakon vzroka in posledice nestalno?
Is the law of cause and effect also impermanent?
Yeah, of course. But this is something, it's like this. you know, impermanence is not a thing. Sometimes people ask, that is impermanence impermanent or not? That's kind of an intellectual question, because impermanence is not a thing. Impermanence is like the fact that things change. That's impermanence. If it was a thing, then you say, is this impermanent or not? But that's not about the thing. It's just, about the situation, the way it is. So therefore, the law of cause and effect is not a thing. It's just that, everything is, because of causes, conditions, that everything is happening and things like that. Relativity is also like that. There's lots of things which is describing a situation or it's not talking about a thing. So when you don't talk about thing, you can't say whether it's permanent or impermanent, because it's not about that.
Okay, zdaj, stvar je v tem, da nestalnost ni neka stvar. In pravi, da včasih ljudje pridejo z vprašanjem, a je ta moja nestalnost, a je tudi ta stalna ali nestalna, ampak na nek način je to preveč intelektualizirano vprašanje, ker nestalnost ni stvar. Nestalnost je samo opis stanja stvari. In zaradi tega pač zakon vzroka in posledice samo opisuje neko stanje, ni pa poimenovanje za nek fenomen, nek konkreten fenomen. Gre samo za to, da pač morajo za to, da bi nekaj obstajalo, obstajajo za to vzroki in pogoji. In v bistvu na nek način ne moramo spraševati, so stvari ali pa so opisi, ki niso stvari, in po teh opisih ne moramo spraševati na isti način, kot se sprašujemo o stvarih. To velja tudi za pač relativne odnose, soodvisni nastanek in vse.
What is that constantly recreates itself?
Hmm?
What is that constantly recreates itself?
This that's what we call the causes and conditions. Like the flower, it grows, and then it produces its seed, and then when the seed falls down on the ground, it grows again. So that continuum, what we call, is just that this, like this moment of all the causes and conditions has the capacity to kind of make the causes and conditions to have the next moment. So like that, it's a thing cannot cause something totally different. Like for instance, if you have an apple seed cannot cause a mango fruit. So that's why the cause has to be similar in nature. That's why it creates something similar all the time.
Vprašanje je bilo pa, zakaj je tisto, kar se kar naprej obnavlja. In pa če pravijo, da recimo zaradi vzrokov in pogojev neka stvar nastane, recimo roža zraste in potem naredi semena, in potem ta semena, ali pa cvet zraste, naredi semena, ta semena padajo na tla in potem iz tega spet zraste nova rastlina. In gre za nek kontinuum. Gre za to, da vzroki in pogoji, ki so prišli skupaj v tem trenutku, imajo vsebujejo možnost, da ustvarijo vzroke in pogoje, ki bo povzročili, da bo nekaj obstajal v prihodnem trenutku, v naslednjem trenutku. In stvari ne morejo biti, ena stvar ne more biti vzrok neki drugi stvari, ki bi bila popolnoma drugačna od te prve stvari. Kot naprimer iz jabolčnega semena ne moramo dobiti, ne bo zrasel mango. Tako da pravimo, da je vzrok podoben posledici.
Kako pa je sploh nastalo seme? Oziroma, to je večno vprašanje, kaj je bilo prej, jabolko ali seme. No? Obstaja v tibetanski tradiciji razlaga tega in prvega, bi rekel, poriva, pa prvega kreacije.
Yeah, so actually it becomes the question, what was first, the apple or the seed, and then is there any explanation in the Tibetan way why everything came to be? Is there a first cause?
That's the very usual philosophical question. That's the philosophical question asked throughout the ages all the time. And that's why people say, what's the beginning? And what's the beginning? Then there should be some time when nothing can become something. So then you can't say when nothing becomes something, why nothing becomes something. So then sometimes, many people say that there must be somebody like God who made it from nothing to something. And then again our question arises, who made God? When God became from nothing to something. So there is no end. Then it's like the same question as which is the first egg or the chicken, things like that. From Buddhist point of view, from Buddha's description of this, is that there is no, you cannot find the first, you cannot find the beginning, because there is no beginning. Because there is no beginning, because it didn't begin like a linear thing. First there was, then this, then this, then this. It's not like that. The nature of things is not like that. Nature of things is interdependent, dependently arising. So therefore, when it's dependently arising, you can say this first. This happened first. Because actually, if you look at it, there's nothing first. There's nothing. When you say first this or first that, then this has to exist on its own. But from Buddhist point of view, there's nothing exists on its own. So there's nothing first. It's a dependently arising. So every time that's there, it's dependently arising. There's no first or there's no second. So therefore, Buddha said this, that the question of what happened first, you can never come to a conclusion. If you understand the nature of the things, then you will understand this question. So the nature of the things is this, it's interdependent and emptiness. So there is no question of when it began, because it never existed. When things never existed, how can you say it began at that time?
Ok, to je dosti pogosto, to je filozofsko vprašanje, ki se pojavljajo skozi tisočletja, si ga postavljajo ljudje. In sicer kaj, kako se je vse skupaj začelo, če najprej ni bilo nič, kako je ta nič postal nekaj in kako je, kaj je to povzročilo, zakaj se je to zgodilo in potem nek odgovor, velikrat je nek odgovor, da je Bog, tisti vse mogočno bitje, ki je ustvarilo vse, ampak seveda potem je čisto legitimno vprašanje, da vprašamo, kdo je pa naredil Boga in kdaj se je to zgodilo, kako je Bog prišel iz neobstoja v obstoj. In v bistvu ta popularna verzija tega, kar je bilo prej kurali jajce. In z stališča budizma ne moramo najti začetka, ker začetek ne obstaja. Zakaj začetek ne obstaja? Zaradi tega, ker ne gre za neko linearno sosledje dogodkov, da je najprej ena stvar, ki povzroči drugo stvar in se potem ta veriga vzročno-posledična razvije linearno. Po budističnem naziranju je narava vseh stvari to, da so soodvisne. Če so soodvisne, pomeni, da ni nikoli obstajala neka prva stvar, ki bi obstajala. Ampak vsaka stvar obstaja samo v odvisnosti od vseh ostalih stvari. In če gledamo na ta način, potem ni prvega vzroka. Ker če bi rekli, da je najprej obstajalo to, pa potem tisto, potem bi moralo to obstajati samo na sebi. To, kar je vzrok in posledica, bi morala obstajati samo na sebi. Spravo neodvisno. Ampak, kot smo pa videli, ker z budističnega stališča pa vse stvari obstajajo samo v soodvisnosti, ne pa kot same na sebi. Se pravi, same na sebi niso nič, ali pa so praznina, nič ne obstaja. In v tem smislu ne moramo potem govoriti o prvi stvari, pa drugi stvari. In pravi Buda, da odgovor na to vprašanje, nikoli ne moraš priti do definitivnega odgovora na vprašanje, kaj je bilo najprej, če razmišljaš na ta način, ne? Na linearen način. Če pa zelo globoko razumemo naravo resničnosti, ne? Če zelo globoko razumemo soodvisnost in relativno obstoj vseh stvari, potem pa razumemo, da vse stvari so pravzaprav prazne, same na sebi ne obstajajo. In če ne obstajajo, potem je pravzaprav nesmiselno govoriti o tem, kako so nastali, oziroma kako so skupaj nastali.
I have one practical question.
Okay.
I think that when I listen to you or to other teachings, I understand completely. But then a life situation comes and you find yourself reacting in a totally different way, or that you forget about the implements of particular offenders. So does that mean that we don't understand enough, that we should practice more, we are not aware enough? Or how to remember this in these situations at that time and that moment?
It's easy to talk about. That's why they said that those who cannot do, teach. But also, this. That's why in the practice, we talk about understanding, then experiencing realization, 3 levels. When you first listen to a teaching or investigate, and then you have some understanding, and that understanding is very, very important. But that understanding is not experience. So that understanding can be forgotten, can be, can go away. So when your kind of strong habitual tendencies, circumstances happens, then that understanding disappears. So that's why it's said that understanding is very intellectual. It's still intellectual, so therefore it cannot necessarily totally transform. But that's the very, very important basis. That's why we need practice. So first understanding, and then using that understanding and bringing that understanding to your experience. That's the longest practice, because they say that the longest journey is from your head to your heart. Yeah? The longest journey is from your head to your heart. That means to bring that understanding to your experience is very, very difficult. It takes practice, it takes time. And once that understanding becomes some experience, then it becomes much more experiential. But even that time, you can sometimes have it and you can sometimes don't have it. So that also, there's a long period when this experience can happen very strongly and very clearly, and then sometimes it also goes away and you don't have it. And then when you practice on and on and on, then at the last, in a certain time, then it can become realization. That's when that understanding or experience is always there, and you cannot separate it from your life. So that's what we are looking forward to. This real, true kind of accomplishment of the practice is that what we call realization. And there, when that happens, then you don't need to meditate. Whether you meditate or you don't meditate, when you are aware or you are not aware, that experience is there. So that sometimes we call it no more meditation stage, because there's nothing to cultivate. It's experience is there. So therefore, it's important to understand that as soon as you understand, your reaction is not necessarily happening according to that.
Vprašanje je bilo, če zdaj pravi, da ko poslušam učenja, se vidi, da mi je vse jasno in potem se to zgodi v vsakdanjem življenju, v situacijah, da reagiram popolnoma drugače, kot bi vse to razumevanje nekam izklapelo. In kako delati s tem, kako se spomniti v situaciji, ko se nam nekaj dogaja, kako se spomniti praznine, soodvisnosti, relativne obstoja stvari. In recimo pa če pravi, da je to zelo lahko govoriti o teh stvarih. Potem se pošalil, da tisti, ki ne znajo narediti, pa učijo druge. In zdaj, način, kako dosežemo, to je s prakso. In ta praksa trening ima tudi 3 stopnje. Na prvi stopnji razumemo stvari, na drugi stopnji jih izkusimo in na tretji stopnji dosežemo realizacijo. In seveda najprej, ko poslušamo učenja in ko razmišljamo o njih, lahko pridemo do razumevanja. In to je zelo pomembna stvar. Ampak treba potem vedeti, da razumevanje še ni dejanska izkušnja. Razumevanje lahko zgine. To je stvar, ki jo lahko pozabimo zaradi močnih navad, negativnih vzorcev, ki jih nosimo sabo, se lahko v katerikoli trenutek lahko to razumevanje pač zgine in ga ni več, ker gre za intelektualno razumevanje in to intelektualno razumevanje samo na sebi še nima moči, da bi nas dejansko spremenilo. Je pa zelo pomembna osnova in to razumevanje potem uporabno, da s prakso spravimo to razumevanje v izkušnjo. In to, Rinpoče pravi, da je to dolgo potovanje, da je to nekaj, kar traja dolgo časa, ker pravi, da in ni enostavna stvar, ni lahka stvar. Pravi, da je najdaljša pot je pot iz naše glave do našega srca. Se pravi, zato rabimo čas in trening in prakso. In potem s časom in s prakso, z ustrajnostjo pride do tega, da naše intelektualno razumevanje postane naša izkušnja, dejanska izkušnja. Ampak tudi takrat še nimamo zadeve, ker včasih se zgodi, da je izkušnja tam zelo močna, zelo jasna, prisotna, včasih pa zgine, ne? In je spet tako, kot je bilo prej. Zaradi tega moramo nadaljevati s prakso, nadaljevati s treningom in potem, ko še zmeraj prakticiramo, počasi v določenem trenutku pride do tega, da dosežemo to, kar se imenuje realizacija. In takrat je dosežek, takrat to imamo, se pravi, to razumevanje potem ne izgine več. In v tem primeru ta izkušnja ni več ločena od našega življenja. Naše življenje postane ta izkušnja. In to je cilj, to je pot, cilj, zaradi katerega hodimo po poti in to je tisto, kamor smo usmerjeni in potem na koncu pravi Rinpoče, da ni več nobene potrebe, da bi meditirali, da to se imenuje stopnja, ki je onkraj meditacije, ko ne glede na to, ali smo pozorni na to ali ne, je izkušnja vedno prisotna in ni več ničesar, kar bi morali gojiti. No in to je pomembna stvar.
Ja, ker smo mehni, se tako veselimo teh 20 dnevov, pa zelo radi se števamo na te številke. Pa se kasneje, ker se te številke že malo naberejo, se pa to neha, ne? Pa se kar nekako počne izogen tem 20 dnevom, da nas nastavljajo na to, koliko je že teh številk. Mene pa zdaj zanima, ker sem že pač kar nekaj časa na tem planetu, opažam, da tudi jaz, recimo, sem padel v ta krog, tukaj sem okoli sebe opazil, da pač se gledaš v ogledalu, pa pač telo predstavlja ta leta, ki jih imaš, ampak noter se pa vsi nekako počutimo 20-25 let mlajši. Zdaj pa moje vprašanje je, kdo sem jaz, tak, ki je toliko mlajši, ki ga jaz vidim, ali pa čutam, ali to telo, ki je tam pred ogledalom?
Say it in English. Yeah.
Okay. When you are young, you are happy when you have birthdays. So you are collecting these numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 10, I'm 18. But then later you forget this number because they are getting bigger, They remind you that you are getting really old. So my question...
So you reduce it.
Yeah. You don't celebrate, yes, so then you don't remind you. Then my question was, because I saw that I've become same like all the other, I watch them. And that you are standing in front of the mirror and you're, 40, but you feel that you are still 20. So who am I? This who feels that it's 20 or this 40 years old? Why is that different? Why zakaj pride do te razlike? Why it comes to...
How it becomes two?
Who says you are 40? You are 20. Whoever says you are 40 is wrong.
In pa če pravi, če kdo pravi, da si 40 star, to pa nima prav.
Yeah, you know, I'm 35.
My sister-in-law says that she remained at 30 for 5 years. It's no problem.
In pa če pravi, da je na njegova sorodnica.
You don't know how old you are, you know. You can't feel it. Sometimes I don't feel it. Only you understand it when, you know, like somebody else reminds you. I thought I was very young, you know, and then one day a man came with a long beard, quite old. And he introduced himself. He said, my father sent me to you. So he's your friend. So can you help me? Something. He said, your father is there? He just married yesterday. I went to his wedding, you know. He was my friend. I went to his wedding, and I thought it was, you know, this the year before or something. But this time has become so big and so. I was totally shocked, and then I knew I was old. But you know that sometimes, you know, you don't understand. You know, you don't. Actually, I felt oldest when I was 20. I never felt as old as when I was 20. Now I'm 60. People say I'm 60. I don't believe. Like you know. I still think I'm 30. I don't look at my mirror anyway. Even when I shave, I don't shave in the mirror. I do it like this. And anyway, with Tibetans, you know, we don't wash it too much, you know. Once a year. That's must, you know. Then we put some like this. On the day before New Year, we take some water and that's washing. And there are some stories. In India, we have some very nice stories about Tibetans, you know. In Darjeeling, you know, Darjeeling, there was once a contest. And this contest was, you know, there was a cave. In that cave, there was a goat, he-goat, you know. He-goat ran. And usually he-goats very smelly, you know. You know? They are farmers, then they know. He-goats are very smelly. So the contest was who can stay in this cave with the he-goat for the longest. So whoever can sit there longest will get a big prize. I think it's during English time. And then Bengali came. Bengalis think that they are very, very special. So they came, went in. It didn't take 2 minutes, they had to come out. They couldn't. Then the Punjabi came. Punjabis think they are very brave. So they went in, they stayed 2 minutes, 3 minutes, they came out. They couldn't tolerate it. Then the Gokhale came. The Gokhale is supposed to be really brave and hardy. The Gokhale went in. 5 minutes, something like that, he had to come out. Then the Tibetan came. With his hat, she went in. And not even 5 minutes passed, the goat came. He couldn't take it.
Rinpoche prav, da ima eno sorodnico, ki že 5 let govori, da je stara 30. Oziroma je 5 let govorila, da je stara 30. Ponovno človek ne čuti, koliko je star, dokler te drugi ne opomnejo na to. In sam Rinpoche prav tudi sam, da se je imel za zelo mladega, dokler ni prišel v en takže ne več toliko mlad človek z brado in je rekel, ja, moj oče me je poslal, kaj je tvoj prijatelj k tebi. In Rinpoche gledal in je rekel, čak, ampak se sem bil pred enim letom na poroki od tega svojega prijatelja. Da je pa njegov sin z brado tukaj. Ne? In takrat je spoznal, da je že malo starejši. In Rinpoche prav, da se je najstarejšega počutil, kaj je bil star 20 let. Ne? Zdaj je sicer star 60, ne, in da mu ljudje govorijo, da je 60 sam in ne verjame čisto. Tako da prav, da pri sebi se počuti koliko berov, tako je 30 let starega. Pa da itak ne uporablja gledala kaj dosti, da tudi, kad se brije, se tako brez ogledala. In sploh prav, tibetanci se ne umivajo preveč, tako da ne rabijo ogledal, da bi se lišpali oziroma urejali svojo zunanjost. Prav, enkrat na leto, za novo leto, tako se malo pošpricajo od svoga, to je dosti tibetanci. Prav, je veliko zgodbic v Indiji o tibetancih, zanimivih. Enkrat še za čas Angležov so imeli v Darjeelingu eno tako tekmovanje, ne, in je bila ena jama, kjer je živel en kozl, jarc. Ne, in jarci, tisti, ki živite na kmetih, poznate, mislim, veste, da zelo smrdijo. Ne. In tekmovanje je bilo v tem, da kdo bo najdlje zdržal v jami s tem kozlom, ker je toliko smrdeli. In potem so je najprej šel noter en Bengalc, Bengalci so nas zelo posebne, in hotel dobiti nagrado, šel noter in po 2 minutah ni zdržal več, je prišel ven iz jame. Potem je šel noter en Sikh iz Punjaba, Punjabi, so zelo močni in pogumni in spet 3 minute zdržal, pa pride ven. Potem je prišel še en Gurka, te so pa res zajebani. Šel noter, me je zdržal 5 minut, ne, ampak tudi na koncu pride ven. Pa gre tibetanc noter. No, pa še ni minili 5 minut, pa pride kozu ven. This is not fair, actually. They knew the hook already, because most of them understand English.
Okay, then thank you very much.